Learning target 2, again, is just a review. You have to be able to learn target 2 information to learn target 3, which is really about circles. So in Algebra 2, you learned how to factor, in Algebra 1, you learned how to factor trinomials, quadratic equations, and specifically how to complete the square. You have to be able to complete the square in order to learn target 3. So, learning target 2 note sheet has all of the steps listed for you, step by step. So you can look back at it if you forgot. I'll go over the example and then I'm going to do another one to make sure we know how to complete the square. Learning target 3 is rewriting a equation of a circle from general form to standard form, and the way to do that is by completing the square. So this is why we have to do this. Okay? So, your example from your note sheet says x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0. I'm going to go through the steps it says on your note sheet. That's how you should do every time. It says, step 1, move all constants to one side of the equation. That means you just want the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So in this case, we are going to add 6 to both sides. I can't complete the square. Let's have the variables alone. I couldn't factor to get a perfect square trinomial from the beginning, so we're going to do that now. So everyone just moves the constants to their side. Everyone good? All right. If there happened to be some number in front of x squared, you would need to divide that out at this point. You cannot have 3x squared and complete the square. It only works if you have 1x squared. So make sure you're looking for that. All right, step 2. Find 1/2 of b and square it. B over 2 squared. So this would be a, the number in front of x squared. B is the number in front of x. And then this would be c. So if I'm going to do b divided by 2 squared, what is b? 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared happens to also be 4. Right? Now, you have to add that step 3 to both sides of the equation. You can't just do something to one side. You have to do both sides. It's an equation. So we're going to add 4 here, and we're going to add 4 there. Yeah. By doing this, completing the square gives you a trinomial that when you factor it, you get the same factor twice. So if I'm looking for two numbers I can multiply to get 4 that add up to be 4, that's 2 and 2. It'll always be the same numbers. All right, that's how this works. Now, you can either factor it that way, look for two numbers you can multiply to get c that add up to be b. That works. Or you can write this down as a side note. The factored form will always be x plus whatever b divided by 2 was squared. So the two numbers you can multiply to get 4 that add up to be 4 are 2 and 2. I was using this in purple. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So same thing. So the correct factorization is x plus 2 squared equals 10. Questions about that? Is this ringing a bell? Have you seen it before? Yes, because I know you did it in Algebra 2. All right, I'm going to do another example that has a fraction in it, which is why you might need to write this down. Okay? Let's say we have, instead, negative 2x squared plus 10x plus 22 equals 4. First problem, because there's a number in front of x squared. It's not 1. This will not work if it says negative 2x squared. Luckily, all of the constants, all the coefficients are even. So I can divide everything by negative 2, and then I will just have 1x squared. All right, so you need to make sure you're looking out for that. This will not work if you have a number other than 1 in front of x squared. So since I'm dividing by negative 2, watch your signs. You have x squared minus 5x minus 11 equals negative 2. So I'm going to follow the steps to complete the square because I can't factor it how it is right now. So what's the first thing you do? Add 11. You move all of the constants to the other side, so you just have x's left on one side. So x squared minus 5x. I'm always going to leave a space because I know I'm going to add something to that. And so negative 2 plus 11 is 9. All right, then how am I going to find this number that I'm going to add in on both sides? Says it on your note sheet. B divided by 2 squared. So B happens to be negative 5. So negative 5 divided by 2 squared. You are going to leave these in fraction form. Do not give me decimal. So if you're going to square that fraction, you square the numerator and denominator separately. So that's not bad. What's negative 5 squared? And what's 2 squared? So I'm adding 25 over 4 to both sides. Now, this is why I told you to write this down. If you try to factor this, you're looking for two numbers you can multiply to get 25 over 4 that add up to be negative 5, which might be a struggle. So, if you don't think that way, you can always use this little trick. Always works out that way. So, what was B again? What was B? Negative 5. So I'm going to have x plus negative 5 over 2, and plus and negative, same thing as saying minus, right? So I'm going to get x minus 5 over 2. So I'm not magically coming up with that. I actually gave you a way to find that. And then we just need to add 9 and 25 over 4. Again, we're going to leave that in fraction form. So you can use your calculator if you want to. Just make sure you leave it in fraction form. 9 is the same thing as 36 over 4 because you have a common denominator. And 36 plus 25 is 61. Give 61 over 4. Now listen very carefully, because some of you guys think you're super clever, and you are, but you're too clever for your own good, and you'll mess this up. Some of you are like, well, if you gave us this formula thing in the highlighted part, then why do I even do the middle step? So why do I still have to do this part, where I add to both sides? What would happen if I didn't do that? Yeah, I wouldn't have the 61 over 4 on the other side, right? I would be missing a piece. But the whole point of doing this, again, in learning target 3 is we're going to be rewriting equations of circles. And what comes after the equal sign in an equation for a circle? R squared, right? The radius squared. So if you're missing a part, then you're not going to get the radius at the end. You won't be able to figure that out. So don't try to skip steps. They're all there for a reason. Okay? Questions about the process right there? We're going to keep practicing learning target 3 anyway. Any questions? All right, so that's learning target 2. There's a worksheet for homework that goes with learning target 2. It's 6 of those to practice. All right? So once I get done with this, you can work on that if you have questions first. We're going to go ahead and do learning target 3, though, because it's the same exact thing. Like, I'm not adding anything new into what's going on. We're still going to do it 2 times instead of 1 time. So in learning target 1, we talked about that the equation of a circle in standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where hk is the center and r is the radius. Okay? So I can tell things important information from this equation. If I needed to graph it, I could pull the center out and I could pull the radius out and I could graph it. A lot of the time, though, you're not given the equation of a circle in that format. Instead, you're giving it in this format called general form. And that's just, it's all written out all together. You can't tell the center and the radius from looking at that. There's no way. Okay, so In learning target 3, we're taking general form and changing it into standard form by completing the square, like we just did in learning target 2. All right? So, for example, I have an equation in general form. I have x and I have y. And if I'm trying to get back to some binomial squared, right, I would need to complete the square. That would be the easiest way to go about that. So here's my first advice. I would go through and I would organize your equation first. You don't have to, but I would organize your equation first. I put your x's together, your y's together, I move your constant to the other side. Okay? So I have x squared minus 4x. I'm going to leave a space because I know I'm going to add something in a second. Plus y squared plus 14y. Going to leave a space because I'm going to add something there in a second. And I need to add the 47 to the other side.
And teachers need to go to the cafeteria at this time. Miss Chipman, Miss Nowak, Miss Hines, Coach T, Jason Shelby, Mr. Jackson, and Mr. Scott. Thank you.
I did not erase the y part. I just covered it up for a second. We're going to do one thing at a time. So we're going to focus without looking at the y part. Okay? Just looking at the x part. This is just, I can complete the square and factor in order to get x plus or minus something squared. Okay? So the same process that we did a second ago. We take b, we divide by 2, and we square it, and then we add it to both sides. So what's b? Negative 4. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. So I'm adding a 4 here, and I'm adding a 4 over there. If I'm going to factor the x part, right, we said that that's x plus b divided by 2 squared, or two numbers you can multiply to get 4 that have to be negative 4. So what is this going to be factored? What's it going to be when it's factored? X minus 2 squared. Right? B was negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2. So x minus 2. Okay. Then we're doing the same exact thing again for y. So now I can ignore all of that. It's not important to me. Again, doing b divided by 2 squared. In this case, b is 14. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 7 squared is 49. So I'm going to add 49 here and to the other side. So I'm just doing the process. If I'm going to factor this, again, you can use this little equation, or you can look for two numbers you can multiply to get 49 that have to be 14. It's going to be factored. Y plus 7 squared. Then we need to add up everything on the side. 47 plus 4 plus 49 is 100. This is standard form of the equation. I should be able to ask you questions now that you can answer. So I'll remind you what the original. If I add of this circle is, what would the center be of this circle? Almost. Almost. 2 -7. We're getting close. Right? The original equation has a minus sign in both of the binomials, right? So if I have x minus 2 and I have x minus h, then h is just 2, positive 2. If I have y minus k and I have y plus 7, then it must have been minus a -7. So k was -7. Everyone sees how I got the center from that. If I ask you what the radius is, what's the radius? Ten. If the equation is equal to r squared, well, 100 is r squared. So then if I want to get r, I take the square root. The radius is 10. I should be able to graph that circle. I couldn't graph it originally, but now I can. Questions about that? Can I resolve that? On the second example, what's the problem? Someone said 2's. There's a 2 in front of the x squared and the y squared. That's an issue. If it's a circle, it'll be the same number in front. So we can't complete the square until we get rid of the 2's. Again, luckily everything is even. So we're going to divide everything by 2. So we have x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 4y plus 17. I want you to do this example. I want you to go through it and work it out. And at the end, I want you to tell me the center and the radius of the circle as well. So rewrite it in standard form, and then give me the center and the radius. put the answer on the screen when you're finished. You can check. If you have questions, this would be the time to ask me. Any questions about how I got the standard form equation or how I found the center and the radius?